Keanu Reeves steps back into his old Toronto school, not with a grand entrance, but in quiet solitude, seeking nothing more than the familiar echoes of his past. As he meanders down the hushed corridors, an unexpected sight halts him in his tracks. An elderly man, his hair turned silver, deliberately scrubbing the floor. There's something in the gentle grip on that worn broom, a spark of recognition from days long gone. Could it be the same janitor who once offered him silent guidance? But why, after all these years, does he remain? A subtle chill of foreboding stirs within Keanu, hinting that the revelations ahead will change both their lives forever. Before we dive deeper into this unfolding mystery, let us know where you're watching from. And if you cherish stories like these, subscribe to our channel, because tomorrow, we have another special tale waiting just for you. Keanu Reeves pulled up in front of the old building with a mixture of trepidation and bittersweet anticipation. The high school in Toronto, which had once buzzed with youthful energy and laughter, now lay quiet beneath the soft glow of the streetlights. Every inch of its aged facade whispered memories of days gone by, and tonight, Keanu was determined to walk those silent halls once more. He remembered the days when the corridors had been his sanctuary, where every corner, every echo, held a fragment of his past. The invitation had come as a simple request: attend a fundraiser to help underprivileged students. Yet, for Keanu, the real draw was personal. He wasn't just returning as a celebrity. He was coming back to reconnect with a part of his life he had long since left behind. As he stepped through the main entrance, a chill ran down his spine. The air was filled with a delicate mix of dust and memories, and the sound of his footsteps resonated against the old tile floors. With every step, he recalled the faces that had colored his school days. And then, something unexpected made him pause. A familiar figure in the long-abandoned corridor. It began with a glimpse, a slow, deliberate movement near the side corridor. Keanu's eyes widened as he recognized the figure. An elderly man, his hair silver and his posture weary, carefully scrubbing the floor with a worn broom. It was Mr. Alves, the very same janitor who had silently watched over him during his troubled youth. The sight stirred something deep within Keanu. Memories flooded back, of whispered words, small acts of kindness, and moments of quiet guidance. As a boy, Keanu had felt unseen and misunderstood. But Mr. Alves, with his gentle presence, had offered him solace and a sense of belonging in a world that often made him feel invisible. Keanu approached slowly, each step laden with emotion. The overhead lights flickered as if echoing the uncertainty of the moment, casting long shadows that danced on the faded walls. When Mr. Alves finally looked up, time seemed to stand still. His eyes, full of both weariness and wisdom, met Keanu's with a spark of recognition that bridged decades. "Keanu," the old janitor said, his voice soft yet resonant. "It's been a long time." Keanu smiled, a mixture of disbelief and fond remembrance etched on his face. "I never thought I'd find you still here," he replied. The words carried more than nostalgia. They held a silent promise of uncovering truths long hidden. The reunion transported Keanu back to the 1980s, a time when life was both harsh and full of hope. In the school's old gym, a young Keanu had once sat alone after a difficult day. The world had seemed cold and unforgiving, until Mr. Alves had sat beside him. With quiet compassion, he had shared his own story, reminding the troubled teenager that even in the darkest moments, there was someone who cared. "I see you, kid," Mr. Alves had said back then. "You're not invisible. You have a fire inside, even if you can't see it yet." Those words had echoed in Keanu's mind over the years, offering comfort during moments of despair. Now, decades later, as he looked into the tired eyes of the man who had once been his secret guardian, he sensed a deep melancholy that went far beyond age. Mr. Alves was still here, not just physically, but as a living symbol of all the forgotten kindness that the world often overlooked. "Why are you still here?" Keanu finally asked, his voice trembling with genuine concern. "After all these years, shouldn't you be enjoying the peace you deserve?" Mr. Alves sighed and lowered his gaze. "I've spent my life keeping these halls clean, making sure that every student feels safe, even if I'm never noticed. But life hasn't been kind to me in return. My pension is barely enough, and I'm still here because, well, I have no choice." The admission struck Keanu hard. Here was a man who had given everything without asking for recognition. who had become a quiet cornerstone in the lives of many, yet was left to bear the weight of neglect. Determined to understand more, Keanu returned to the school the next day, this time away from the fundraiser's limelight. He found himself in the maintenance area, where time-worn lockers and faded posters bore witness to decades of forgotten dreams. It was there, in the janitor's office, that he confronted Mr. Alves again. Sitting at a small metal desk, Mr. Alves was mending a tear in his faded shirt. His hands moved with the care of someone who had practiced the art of survival all his life. When Keanu knocked gently on the door, the old man looked up, startled yet resigned. "Back so soon, Keanu?" he asked, a trace of humor softening his tired eyes. Keanu stepped inside, unable to mask the worry in his voice. "I couldn't stop thinking about you, Mr. Alves. I need to know, why are you still working these long, exhausting hours?" Mr. Alves hesitated, then slowly replied, "My pension doesn't cover my living expenses. I work because if I stop, I have nothing left. It's not about pride, it's about survival." As Keanu absorbed those words, he could see the lines of hardship etched into every wrinkle on Mr. Alves's face. The revelation ignited a sense of urgency in him. This wasn't just a personal loss. It was a symptom of a system that had failed to honor those who served selflessly. "Isn't there any way, any program or assistance for someone like you?" Keanu asked, his voice a mix of frustration and determination. Mr. Alves shook his head slowly. "Sometimes, assistance comes with strings attached. I never wanted to be seen as a charity case. I've always prided myself on my independence, even if it means struggling in silence." Keanu's heart ached for the man who had once been his silent protector. He began to envision a solution that wouldn't strip Mr. Alves of his dignity, a way to transform his life and, in the process, honor the legacy of kindness he had instilled in countless lives. That evening, back in his modest apartment, Keanu sat at his desk, scribbling ideas furiously in a worn notebook. The pages filled with plans, dreams, and a bold vision. A mentorship program that would not only provide financial stability for people like Mr. Alves but also celebrate their invaluable wisdom. It was a way to ensure that no student ever felt as invisible as he once had, and that every unsung hero received the recognition they deserved. His idea was simple yet revolutionary. Instead of treating the assistance as a handout, why not transform it into a respected role? Mr. Alves would become the cornerstone of the Alves Legacy Initiative, a program where his experience and life lessons would be shared with students who needed guidance and hope. In the proposal, Keanu detailed every aspect of the plan. A mentorship role. Mr. Alves would lead workshops and one-on-one sessions, teaching practical life skills and the art of resilience. A health and well-being. Part of the program would ensure that Mr. Alves, along with other elderly staff, received the medical care they deserved, starting with the surgery he so desperately needed. A community engagement. The initiative would involve local businesses, alumni, and community leaders to create a sustainable network of support for the school's underprivileged students. A legacy building. By highlighting the stories of unsung heroes, the program would inspire students to appreciate every form of wisdom, regardless of its source. The more Keanu refined his ideas, the more convinced he became that this was the only way to honor Mr. Alves's legacy and bring lasting change to the community. With determination fueling his every word, he finalized the proposal and prepared to present it to Mr. Alves the following morning. The next day, Keanu found Mr. Alves in the janitor's closet, carefully repairing an old broom that had seen better days. With the proposal printed and neatly folded, Keanu took a deep breath and approached the old man. "Mr. Alves, I have something to show you," Keanu said gently, placing the folded paper on a nearby workbench. Mr. Alves looked at it with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "What's this, Keanu?" Keanu's eyes sparkled with earnest passion. "It's a plan, a way for you to step out of the background and into a role that truly honors everything you've done. It's called Life Lessons with Mr. Alves, the Legacy Initiative. Instead of being seen as just a janitor, you'll be the mentor who guides students through their toughest times. And yes, part of that plan includes getting you the proper medical care you need." The old man paused, his weathered face softening as he took in Keanu's words. "But I'm not one for change, Keanu. I've done what I needed to do all these years, and I'm proud of my work, even if it wasn't recognized." Keanu leaned forward, his tone firm yet caring. "I know, and that's exactly why this is so important. You never asked for recognition. You simply cared for us. Now, it's time we return that care, not as charity, but as respect for your legacy." Mr. Alves's eyes flickered with uncertainty, and for a moment the silence was thick with unspoken emotion. Finally, with a slow, deliberate exhale, he began to read the proposal. The paper detailed the vision of a community that valued every voice and every contribution, no matter how humble it seemed. After a long pause, Mr. Alves looked up, his voice trembling slightly as he said, "And what if I say no?" Keanu's smile was gentle, almost playful. "Then I'll keep coming back until you change your mind. Because you deserve better, and because this community needs your wisdom." A small chuckle escaped Mr. Alves. "You always were stubborn, kid. All right, let's do it." Within weeks, the changes began to unfold like the petals of a long-awaited bloom. With Keanu's persistent efforts and the support of local benefactors, Mr. Alves underwent the much-needed surgery. The procedure was a success, and as the days passed, the old man's strength gradually returned. In a public ceremony held at the refurbished school auditorium, Keanu introduced the new Alves Legacy Initiative. Parents, teachers, and students gathered as Mr. Alves, now in a crisp new uniform and with a confident smile, took the stage. "Today," Keanu announced to the rapt audience, "we honor not just the past, but also the future, a future where every student knows that every act of kindness leaves a lasting legacy. And for that, we owe a great debt of gratitude to Mr. Alves." The applause was thunderous. Mr. Alves's eyes glistened with unshed tears as he realized that his life, once marked by quiet sacrifice, was now celebrated as an emblem of hope and resilience. He began his first workshop that very day, sharing stories from his youth, lessons learned from hardship, and the enduring power of compassion. Students listened intently as Mr. Alves recounted his own struggles, his quiet determination to overcome poverty, the sacrifices made for the sake of others, and the hidden pain behind every smile. His words resonated with the young hearts, many of whom were battling their own personal demons. "Every one of you has a story," he told them softly, "and every story matters. You may feel lost now, but remember, sometimes the smallest light can guide you home." That day marked the beginning of a new chapter. Mr. Alves was no longer just a background janitor. He had become a mentor, a symbol of unwavering strength and kindness. The initiative grew, attracting volunteers, alumni, and even local businesses who saw the value in nurturing the hidden potential within each student. Keanu continued to be a constant presence in the program, not as a celebrity guest, but as a caring mentor who believed in the power of second chances. Together, they built a community where every overlooked soul could find its purpose and every unrecognized act of kindness was celebrated. Months turned into years, and the Alves Legacy Initiative flourished. The once dilapidated corridors of the high school now buzzed with a renewed energy. Classrooms that had long been forgotten were repurposed as creative spaces where art, music, and dialogue intertwined to create a vibrant tapestry of learning. Keanu often found himself reflecting on that fateful day he encountered Mr. Alves in the dim corridor. He remembered the mix of awe and sorrow, the way a quiet gesture had ignited a fire within him, a fire that would ultimately change not just one life, but an entire community. In quiet moments, Keanu revisited the pages of his own old notebook, a relic from a time when he felt small and unseen. The handwritten words, filled with doubts and fears, reminded him of how far he had come. And yet, it also reminded him of the responsibility he now carried, to ensure that no child ever felt alone, to champion those who had long been forgotten. Every workshop, every mentoring session with Mr. Alves, became a testament to the transformative power of empathy. The story of the old janitor turned mentor spread far beyond the walls of the school. It inspired other communities to look after their unsung heroes, to build programs that celebrated the dignity of every individual, no matter how modest their role might seem. Keanu and Mr. Alves became local legends, symbols of hope and resilience. Their story was shared at community events, in local newspapers, and even on social media, where viewers were touched by the raw authenticity of their journey. For Keanu, the journey was personal. The lessons he learned from Mr. Alves about perseverance and the value of every human life guided him in every step he took thereafter. And for Mr. Alves, the initiative brought a renewed sense of purpose. No longer did he labor in silence. His wisdom was now a beacon for those navigating the dark corridors of life. One crisp autumn day, as the leaves turned brilliant shades of gold and crimson, the school hosted a special event to celebrate the initiative's success. Parents, teachers, and alumni gathered to hear stories of transformation. Amid the heartfelt speeches and tearful tributes, Mr. Alves took a moment to speak for himself. "I used to think my life was defined by the floors I cleaned," he began, his voice steady yet full of emotion. "But today I stand here, not just as a worker, but as someone whose journey has touched many lives. Each of you has the power to change the world, one kind act at a time." The crowd erupted in applause. Keanu, watching from the sidelines, felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. He realized that the true essence of success wasn't measured in fame or wealth, but in the small, everyday acts of kindness that weave the fabric of our communities. As twilight descended over Toronto, Keanu and Mr. Alves walked together along the quiet sidewalk outside the school. The city lights shimmered like distant stars, and the cool breeze carried the promise of new beginnings. "Do you remember that notebook?" Mr. Alves asked quietly, gesturing to a small, worn journal tucked safely in Keanu's jacket pocket. Keanu nodded, recalling the pages filled with the vulnerable thoughts of his younger self. "I do. It reminds me of how far we've come and how much we still have to give." Mr. Alves smiled gently. "You were never alone, Keanu. And now, through our work, we ensure that no one else will ever feel invisible." Keanu's heart swelled with emotion. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the soft hum of the city, he knew that their journey was only beginning. A journey fueled by the belief that every life, no matter how modest, carries an extraordinary story. Years later, the Alves Legacy Initiative continued to thrive. The educational center expanded, serving not only as a beacon of learning but also as a memorial to the enduring spirit of kindness. Alumni returned to share their successes, always attributing a part of their achievements to the lessons learned from Mr. Alves. Keanu's career had taken him to new heights, yet he remained deeply connected to the community that had shaped him. In interviews and public appearances, he often spoke of the old janitor who had taught him that true greatness lies in caring for others. And so, the story of Keanu Reeves and Mr. Alves became a timeless reminder that every encounter holds the potential for transformation. It is a story of how a simple act, a listening ear, a gentle word, can light the way for generations to come. Through their shared journey, they proved that even in the face of neglect and hardship, compassion could pave the road to redemption and hope. As you watch this story unfold on our channel, remember, if you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, subscribe and join our community. Because every story, just like every person, matters. Thank you for being a part of this journey. Stay inspired, and never forget, the smallest light can guide you home.